Watchtower official Gary Bro's new lecture is a lesson in dysfunctional family 101. Not only does he tell grown Jehovah's Witness siblings to kiss and make up after a fight, and, in doing so, conveniently disregards the context for the disagreement, but he also does something very telling. He repeatedly stresses the importance of reconciliation between believing family members. That is to say, you should do everything in your power to salvage your relationship with a family member who is a Jehovah's Witness. This is not insignificant. Rather, it is a calculated qualifier to remind Jehovah's Witnesses that the only strained relationships you're allowed to repair are between family members who are still loyal members of the organization.
Do you sometimes wish there was less drama and a little more peace in your family? Let's listen as Brother Gary Bro explains how to cultivate peace even when it seems difficult.
The theme that I've chosen is when peace in a family seems elusive. When peaceful relationships are disturbed somehow amongst fellow believers, and if that believer happens to be a relative, it can become extremely difficult.
You catch that? Restore peace with believing family members, and not family members who left, got disfellowshipped, and you sure as hell don't talk to them if they openly criticize the organization. Like the second you speak out, you've signed your death warrant. But this also tells me something else. There's trouble in paradise. You see, Jehovah's Witnesses set themselves up as the example of exemplary families. How bad does it have to be now, guys, that you have to wrangle believers to get along? I would put money on it, lay my life down, that this whole warning talk that's coming out of headquarters right now is because Jehovah's Witness families are experiencing increasing discord and conflict over loyalty to the governing body. You got family members speaking up, and the rest of the family resents them for it. Now he goes on to talk about Jacob and Esau. He uses them as an example of like sibling rivalry. I didn't add that in here. I condensed it down. But listen to what he says next.
And there are many reasons as why that can be so in a family, especially between siblings. Resist the inclination to share negative comments to others about a challenging relative. Instead, focus on their positive and endearing qualities. Overlook the past and focus on healing. It may be painful and may be uncomfortable for us to humble ourselves before the offended. Jacob didn't rehash the past. No, he avoided hot-button topics, so to speak. Rather, he let the encounter and the conversation develop. Don't expect nor demand an apology. Rejoice that communication to some degree has been restored. But remember, even the iron bars of a fortress will rust and weaken in time. So don't give up or lose hope. And a sincere apology may be the very thing that opens the door to the fortress.
Don't talk trash. Don't rehash. Don't expect an apology. If anything, you should apologize, even though you've done nothing wrong. And avoid hot-button issues under any other circumstances. This is actually pretty reasonable advice. But here's why it doesn't work. First, the Jehovah's Witnesses' whole image and reputation is predicated on the idea that they alone have been able to achieve unity and brotherhood where no other religion has. So when something goes wrong, you're stuck basically in this like Jehovah's Witness petri dish. It's such a tight-knit community. Everybody knows everybody, so you're dealing with gossip professionals. Witnesses love drama. They love it when shit goes down in other people's families. They love it. They sit back, they get the popcorn. Oh, did you hear about this? They love it because it deflects attention away from them and their own problems. I'm not saying every single Jehovah's Witness is like this, but generally speaking, this characterizes Jehovah's Witness culture. Most Jehovah's Witnesses are so stressed and on edge, trying to appear perfect all the time. Everything's fine. Nothing to see here. That, the second a twig snaps in the forest, they're like, oh, thank God it wasn't us. Did you hear what happened to the Smith family? Now apply this to your immediate family. Jehovah's Witnesses are full of these long-standing blood feuds. Okay, you got brothers and sisters, fleshly, biological brothers and sisters who hate each other. This family marries into this family. This elder's son marries this elder's daughter, and they hate each other. It's like watching the Montagues versus the Capulets. Lines are drawn so they can win the spiritual Olympics. Everyone's watching to see how families are going to interact with each other. It's really sad. Again, it's all about the image. And family members are thrown under the bus all the time within the organization. They do it to each other. within the organization. That's why he's having to give this talk about, believers getting along. Okay. But he also says, don't expect an apology if a family member screws you over, and avoid hot button issues. This is especially relevant because if you think about it and read between the lines, this whole talk is really just an analogy of the governing body. The governing body never apologizes. The governing body is never held accountable for their actions. So, when he talks about avoiding, quote, hot button issues, try to avoid hot button issues with the other person. Here's the thing. Of course, there's always personal family drama that's unique to each family. Every family has its pain points and private stuff that people don't know about. But I can guarantee you, again, I would put money on this, that this includes increased arguments in recent months and probably I'd say the last year or so over the governing body's recent policy changes. The governing body is acting with unbridled power and it's pissing some family members off. They're making these sudden, arbitrary changes with no apparent scriptural justification, and some family members are being brave enough to call it out. But in doing so, this threatens what I was talking about. It threatens this, superficial cohesion, not just within your devout Jehovah's Witness family, your personal family, but it shatters the image of peace and unity within the organization. That is essentially just one giant, larger, dysfunctional family. All right, so basically their whole MO is you got to eat it, always concede, and just gloss over serious problems and live in a permanent state of denial. I've talked about this before. There is a difference between holding a grudge and subjecting yourself to repeated abuse. And that's what you're expected to do as a J-Dub. Forgive and go back. You can forgive and release resentment for your own sake. I mean, come on, you just don't want to make yourself sick. That doesn't mean I'm going to go back to the craziness. And that's what they don't get. Now, it's really convenient to talk about forgiveness and warm fuzzies because it lets the governing body off the hook. All right, but then he has the nerve to drop this gem.
Sometimes family relationships are frayed. If that's the case with your family and your believing relatives, remember the example of Jacob in Scripture. Always keep your door open for reconciliation, never leaving your relatives forever locked out.
All right. Again, this means if you leave or are openly critical of the organization, even if you try to do it in a respectful way, you just voice legitimate concerns, it doesn't matter. You are not included in this conversation. Unbelieving relatives, this doesn't apply to you. In this case, your family has no intention of restoring healthy communication or family ties. Not a give and take. You live and let live. If you don't thoroughly, 100% wholesale agree to their terms, they will carve you out of their life like a tumor. But dare I say, it ends with a little hope. Follow me on this one.
And in the meantime, if peace seems to be elusive, you may feel like a failure. But a failure would only be if we do not apply Romans 12:18, where it says, if possible, as far as it depends upon you, be peaceable with all men. So if our brother, our sister, our family member refuses to accept our love and our conscientious effort to make peace, then that will be the responsibility that they will have to bear.
Unbelievable. Absolutely freaking unbelievable. But also totally believable. If you're shunned, or maybe you're about to be shunned on the precipice, if you're the unbelieving relative in this whole thing watching this video, probably not the most comforting thing you want to hear right now. But take heart that there is literally nothing you could have done. Literally, there's nothing that you can do. That's why when somebody tells me, like, I'm afraid to speak up, or I don't want to say that, I don't want to rock the boat because then my parents or my devout Jehovah's Witness family, then they'll shun me. Can't speak out publicly. That's fine. You don't have to get on the internet. But if you leave, or they find out, your devout Jehovah's Witness family, your believing family finds out how you really feel, it's going to happen. And there's nothing you can do about it. Meaning, to elaborate, I was already dead when I disassociated. Like personally, in my situation, my family was going to shun me whether I started a channel or not. It doesn't matter if I went away quietly and crawled under a rock in shame. I was dead anyway, no matter how you slice it, so I might as well talk about this shunning legacy. Okay, so this describes you. You tried to warn them. You gave them a heads up, a courtesy heads up. You reassured them of your love. Hey, I'm still here. I still love you. I'm not shunning you. It's the other way around. I didn't cut you out of my life. I cut an organization out of my life. An organization that demands blind, unquestioning obedience. You are willing to put these men, these guys who don't even know your name, above me, your flesh and blood, who loves you and is here for you. You know me. That's what we're dealing with here. You have done, let me be the one to remind you that you have done absolutely everything in your power to propose a mutually respectful relationship with your Jehovah's Witness mother, father, brother, sister, whoever it is. So, if they don't accept your efforts to make peace, that's on them.